Hashtag I'm not a fool should be trending now. I'm not a fool, sir. That is trending on social media right now because a lot of people they talk about this. Somehow a lot of people are now coming out to say, you know what? Does the military man has every right to stop the minister from accessing the land? That is what they are really asking because yesterday Wike was really humbled and a lot of people could understand it. But the kind of language that Wike used on the military man is not authorized in civil service or in government offices. That is a foul language. That is a toutish language. That is Agberu like for Wike to an extent. So I thought Wike should be better educated. That is something I got to understand. Calling somebody an officer who received an order to be at a place and not to allow anybody access to a place, Nigerian military officer, a fool. That is really wrong, Wike, and that man deserves an apology. That is what everybody is really saying. So we need to talk about it, based on some kind of things, based on some interesting part of it, based on some kind of opinion really trending on social media. I want to talk about it. But before I dive into the story, I want you guys to consider subscribing. Hit the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon to always get notifications each time we upload our videos. Yes, before I go with that, I want to say there is something happening in the NFF Super Eagles. I think the Nigerian authority, they need to look this. Players and officials of the Super Eagles of Nigeria are reportedly boycotting training over unpaid dues. Why are they not always paying their dues? That is the question a lot of people are really asking, because when you check the span of the life or the life span of the players of football players is very short, so they need all the money they can to really stay active till their death. That is why you find out that a lot of old players, they are suffering, languishing and all those kind of things, and still be owed their money after like 20-25 years. They are still being owed. So these young players are not really given chance for it. That is what is really trending on social media. So back to the story of Wike, we need to talk about it. Back to the story of Wike, we need to talk about it. A lot of people are getting to understand it from another point of view. An officer called AM Yerima, intercepted or interrupted Wike from accessing or blocked Wike from accessing a site at Gudu in Abuja here. A lot of people are now talking about it based on the videos really trending on social media. Let's catch a sneak of the video because that is not the full video. I've watched the full video last week. He can make call across and then give it to the young man, but still didn't really access the site. So let's watch the video.
Because you're an officer. Nobody does that.
We did not carry anybody.
The man took the Arab, we will not allow because he was chief of and then you to carry land.
Sir, everything was acquired legally.
Will you stop that? Will you stop that?
I'm an officer, I have integrity.
Shut up, you're not good officer.
I will not shut up.
Will you get out?
Sir, I won't shut up. Sir,
I was in school, you're not in school.
Sir, you can't shut me up.
Will you keep quiet? Get me a big food.
I'm not
You are a big fool.
I'm not a fool,
You can shoot anybody like that.
Sir, I'm not a fool. I am not a fool, sir.
As at the time I graduated, you were primary school.
I'm acting on orders.
For which order?
I'm a fool.
And they say you will see whether you love me here.
Sir, you can't call me a fool. I'm an officer. I'm not a fool, sir.
You will have killed everybody here.
No, we won't kill anybody. We won't kill anybody. We are acting on orders.
Go and develop here, let me see you.
Regular officer, I won't come and
We are going to get out.
I'm not even seeing what's recording. Hello, sir.
Director press.
Now you've watched the video and based on the breaking news, former army spokesman General MM Yerima has been identified as the father of the AM Yerima who clashed with Wike. General Mohammed M. Yerima, the former army spokesman, held the position during the tenure of the late Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru Jega. Atahiru, sorry, they call Jega. No, Atahiru. So that is what a lot of people are now really looking at. So the constitutional right, whether Wike has the right or whether the man has the right to block Wike. Wike is the minister of FCT, revoking lands here and there. What I understand based on what I was taught, I read urban and regional planning. Let me emphasize this once more. So you got to really study land law to an extent. Based on what I understand, the condition that was given for revoking lands is overriding public interest. But most of the land being revoked by Wiki is not for overriding public interest. He go revoke land and give it to somebody else, maybe a friend or son or family members, and that is an abuse of power. In developed country, you are sanctioned for that. Protest comes and you leave office and then you are prosecuted for that. But now Nigeria with day, that is something I got to understand. And yesterday, it was something like that because according to a report now, they said that land was acquired over 20 years ago by a certain group, and the army officer actually purchased part of the land, bought part of the land, from these persons, like paid for part of the land, processed the document necessary, and then it was 30 hectares, and part of it was going to be used by this thing, according to them, that this army officer want use am for a wife, to build event center. All of a sudden, the Wike say they want to revoke the land. They said they are giving out 8 hectares for public use or something like that. So we can say he wants all of them. So those are some of the things. So, but I'm not going to justify who they right or wrong about the land. But what I want to say is, does Wike have the right to really call a Nigerian military officer a fool? Because each time you see a military officer in their uniform or on duty, they represent the image of that country, of a sovereign country, and you need to accord them the respect. That is what I kind of understand about that. But calling a military officer a fool, that is violating his own right also. Under Nigerian criminal law, they say criminal code, section, it is an offense to obstruct, insult, or resist a public officer. Wike is a public officer and the military officer is also a public officer, which include military personnel on lawful duty. In the performance of their duty, punishment up to 3 years imprisonment. They are both officers now. So section 150, any person who assaults, insult, or obstructs a public servant while performing official duties can be punished with up to 2 years imprisonment, fine, or both. Wike is a public officer on duty and the officer is a public officer on duty. But now, military protection under law, a soldier on official duty is considered a public officer acting under lawful authority. Insulting or obstructing them can also be treated as disorderly conduct, public disturbances, or obstruction of lawful authority. So you understand now. So both of them now, this thing. So now they said if done by a minister or official or government official, a minister being a part of the executive arm is not above the law. If a minister insults or obstructs a soldier on duty, it violates section 15 of the Nigerian Constitution of 1999, which mandates that the state shall abolish all corrupt practices and abuse of power. So on the part of Wike, it is termed abuse of power. So because Wike is supposed to procedurally deal with the situation, not be say you could just come there, come to school, bully anybody. There is a procedure to actually deal with this thing. That man is not at fault. He was given an instruction, an order, which he will not flout. So if you want to deal with it, you go back to or you call the authority that gave the order to call him to order. If they tell him, say, come out for that, he go come out. It's an order. That is something you got to understand about that. So it can be seen as abuse of office, conduct unbecoming of a public officer, and gross misconduct under the Code of Conduct for Public Officers. Such behavior could lead to disciplinary action, public reprimand, or investigation by the Code of Conduct Bureau or National Assembly. That is what it is right here. So now the question is, who is at fault? The military man is not at fault because he was ordered to that place and not to allow anybody to really enter the side, whether a minister or anybody. So he's carrying his order. He's carrying out his order. So that is why in military, if maybe somebody order some kind of junior military officer to buy somebody, they're not they arrest those people when they order. Now the person will order them because they are just tools. They are just obeying instruction. So that is what it is. But for Wike to call a military officer a fool, that is an embarrassment to the military itself. That is, it undermine the military itself. You know, Wike actually fooled himself yesterday. So a lot of people are now coming out to say, Wike, you need to actually apologize, including the former military general is coming out to say, Wike, you need to actually apologize because that is a threat to the military and the security, national security of this country. So guys, I want you to put your own opinion, but a particular hashtag is being trending on social media called hashtag I'm not a fool. So guys, put your own comment in the comment section so that we can really get to understand you better. You know, sometimes, you know, I was reading through comments, I got to understand that a lot of people, they blame the civil servants, you know, in that particular video, say, why civil servant? Why be say, now fear they make them the art. You can position a civil servant to do something, and when another person just come, we get political power, tell them, you go tell them, yes, I go do otherwise. Why?